call the committee of a whole meeting for the budget to order. Roll call, please.
Trustee Hargett,
Here.
Trustee Levin,
Here.
Trustee Marabella,
Here.
Trustee McCarthy,
Here.
Trustee Weiss,
Here.
Trustee Whitmore, here, Mayor Bruno.
Here. Well, thank you for all joining the committee of a whole. This is going to be discussing the budget. And so I'll turn it over to Village Administrator Greg Jackson.
Mayor, members of the board, we had met about a month ago to discuss the fiscal year 21-22 draft budget. There were several areas that the village board had asked department heads to go back and adjust their numbers, look at their numbers, reprioritize. I will be presenting those numbers this evening. It was a significant adjustment made. Kudos to the department heads who dug deep and identified areas that they could adjust their way they deliver public goods and services. Some could not be fully adjusted downward, and that's what I hope to point out tonight and offer the board some suggestions or recommendations as far as solutions for those. First, for the benefit of the audience, the public that may be watching this or see a recording of this, what we're presenting this evening is the general operating budget, and it has also attached to the documentation two budgets for the two separate enterprise funds, both the water and the sewer enterprise fund. As stated in the last meeting, the restricted fund accounts, TIF, DLA, LESO, MFT, the new ones related to Parks and Rec and the ones for promotion and tourism will be presented with the final draft, which the board will review, make any adjustments and approve. Once the entire draft budget's done, the narrative will be completed, transmittal letter, organizational chart, fund descriptions, department descriptions, a listing of the capital purchase and project request, a matrix showing current debt service, as well as line by line, department by department expenditure justifications, and village personnel worksheets will be provided with that, all in an effort to make sure we increase transparency as to the spending and the expenditures and the revenues for the village. I provided the board with this package, an updated cash on hand report, and that it reflects ledger balance on 4/30/21, as well as an available balance at the time this report was written on 5/12/21. The current outstanding debt for the village is $1.653 million, with a fiscal year 21-22 annual payment of $503,000, $503,336. The upcoming current fiscal years the current fiscal year ending is projected at $3.9 million in revenues, which will allow us a modest $2,600 in surplus. The revenue forecast for fiscal year 21 and 22 remains conservative, with a projection of $4.028 million in revenue. With utilizing budget expenditures for the upcoming fiscal year that are equal to or less than current fiscal year, we're projecting a $42,841 fiscal 21-22 year end surplus. Again, that was if the village board chose to approve all the budgets based on the baseline number. We saw that there were requests beyond that baseline number. With the last budget that was presented, that came to a $648,592 projected deficit, should have all those above baseline budgets been approved. I am pleased to report to the board that with the adjustments that have been made, we have reduced that $648,592 deficit to $72,652. Also letting the board know that that is if we do not utilize the surplus, projected surplus of fiscal year 2021. That being said, 21-22. That being said, in our last meeting, one of the concerns that was discussed was the roof at the Schlater Center. And after discussing it with the mayor and talking to Scott Fuller, we would like to bring back to the board to allow that capital purchase to be made because of the fact if the roof is 30 plus years old, and the roof damage because of leaks can cause interior damage to walls and the wooden floors for the gym. So we're recommending with this budget that capital expenditure be approved. And with that being the case, the deficit would then rise to $115,493. As I go through the individual departments, nothing changed with community development. Nothing changed with administration. We're still projecting below previous year, with the exception of community development bringing on a part-time code enforcement official, which Trustee Hargett discussed and explained at our last meeting. The police department initially came in with a projection of $195,574, or a 12.5% increase over the previous fiscal year. They went back and reworked their budget. Kudos to Deputy Chief Moan and Mike Sheedy and Chief Brumlick. They brought that budget down to even with last year. So they were able to knock out the $195,574. Some of that is going to be taken from DLA and LESO, as well as police forfeiture, where those restricted funds can be utilized for various items that support the police functions. Chief Campanella just jumped into the deep end when he got here, because as soon as he got here, the budget was ready to go. So kudos to the chief to working with staff and taking what was a requested original $411,020, or a 32% increase, and bringing that increase down to $97,195. I'd be remiss if I didn't say to the board that part of that $97,195 is a result of the $70,000 beyond the line 4,000 payroll expense that was permitted with us engaging in a contract with Metro Paramedic. So that was something we were anticipating, and we were anticipating the budget would exceed beyond that. Reductions in the budget elsewhere were made in order to offset expenses. One key area that was adjusted was recognizing that we were going to have an outside assessment or an organizational assessment of the delivery of fire services based on the committee that Chairman, at the time, Chairman Levin and Trustee Weiss had. We were going to wait and see how the best way to deliver those services in the fire side, would be carried out. With that being said, we did allocate some money for increases for the fire department, especially what we think is important, taking their nighttime stipend up by $25 per person. So that was Chief Campanella's recommendation, as well as some slight adjustments for the command staff as well. So the chief worked hard on that. He's come in with, lack of a better phrase, guns blazing. He to tackle the budget right away, and then also made arrangements with the Antioch Fire Department for that mutual aid agreement that the village board agreed to on Sunday. Parks and Recreation came in with an initial request of increase of $34,723, or a 13.9% increase. The board asked us to go back and look at that number. We have brought that increase down to $18,298. About $5,800 of that to pay for referees and umpires that are required for the sporting events in the season. The remaining portion being the addition of 20 hours more of manpower to meet the needs of not only day-to-day staffing issues, but as we remember pre-pandemic, and Trustee Whitmore will remember this, that we had an additional person that we had put over into Parks and Rec. And because of the pandemic, we turned around and made those staffing reductions there. She no longer stayed with the village as part of our cutbacks. So with that being said, we're looking to bring in 20 additional hours. We think it's appropriate to meet the staffing needs. It's still not where Scott needs to be or that department needs to be. But we're also talking that we know we have rentals of both the Schlater Center and the community center, that our insurance requires that there is manpower on site when those facilities are in operation. We haven't necessarily done that in the past, but we've been made aware of it and we're responding accordingly. So with that being said, the total amount coming to the village board for approval will result in $115,493 deficit to take all these requests, adjust it or originally presented, and go ahead and put that into our general fund budget. So if the first question I know the board is going to ask is, okay, where are we getting $115,493? I've been in communication with our Council of Government partners as well as our partners at the state and federal level regarding the American Rescue Plan that President Biden signed into law earlier this month. We know we are getting an allocation in Winthrop Harbor. We have a dollar amount, but after reading some of the requirements for that dollar amount, I do not anticipate that the allocation that has been projected by the U.S. Treasury Department, we will receive the entire allocation. We have two issues there. One of them is that the legislation requires that 50% of the allocation to be distributed 30 days after the president signed the act into law. So we would expect to see that sometime in June. The other 50% can be held by the state of Illinois for up to a year, which always makes people feel warm and fuzzy. So with that being said, I am confident we will receive funds. I'm not sure, but I feel pretty confident that we will receive funds that will at least exceed the $115,000. Also, I want to bring to the board's attention a couple of other items as it pertains to revenue and because it was evolving. The governor is still on track, even though the mayor has just sent a letter to the governor as well as Senator Bush and State Representative Mason asking for support to maintain the level of the local government distributed fund. It's anticipated that the governor is going to cut that even further and further reduce at least by 10% what we would have received last year. And so the mayor, members of the Illinois Municipal League, the Lake County Municipal League, the Mayor's Caucus, all drafted individual letters to both the governor and our legislators, and those have been sent off. I say that to you so it's on the board's radar. The second issue is we've just finished Holdridge. The $140,000 invoice is on my desk, and Julie looks at me and looks at the invoice every day. And with that invoice, we need to understand, and I can't speak for previous grants or how grants were explained to the board in the past. This is a DCEO grant. It's a 100% grant. There is no obligation for the village beyond the granting amount. We certainly saw an increase that Trustee Marabella and Tim Niergarten spoke about last fiscal year of the cost of materials going up and the increase of the cost of the project. But what happens is you submit those invoices for the grant, and it's $100,000 for us. We get a quarter to submit it. We submit it with our receipts, and it can take up to a quarter to get paid. So we're talking anywhere between 3 to 6 months to be reimbursed for the money, but it has to come out of our pocket first. We're able to do that at this point because we have enough in the reserve, and then we would just replenish the reserve once the money came in. The second thing is we've got an anticipated $615,000 in a grant that will, that was awarded to the village that we're anticipating we're going to be notified shortly about proceeding with the Public Works building. That will be in the same situation where we have to pay and then be reimbursed a period after that. The good part of that is that I've come to understand that there is money up front that we'll get direct reimbursement for immediately. And then we can submit the receipts and we don't have to wait for the finished product. So as the receipts come in, we can submit for payment. So those are all positives. That being said, the administrator and staff's recommendation to the board is to approve a budget allowing for a $115,493 deficit to be offset in line 3,500 of the revenue lines, grant money to that same amount, ultimately resulting in a $6,000 surplus If we continue to use the money that we originally projected as a surplus for the roof at the Schlater Center. So we're asking for approval of the budget as it's presented. The change is being made to allow $36,000 to be approved for the roof at the Schlater Center, to allow the $97,000 requested by the fire department, 70,000 of that attributed to a operational decision made the previous year, for fire department equipment, contracts, et cetera, and to allow the $18,298 be approved for parks for the purpose of the additional staff and the roughly $5,800 for the referees, umpires that Scott needs to do the sporting events that he does every year.
So did you not include in that the community development request?
Your mic's not on, Greg. There you go.
For what do you mean?
In what you rattled off as far as the increases from the base budget, does that still include
Yes. Yeah.
the code enforcement? Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
it's because when we left the last session, it was moving forward and we adjusted.
Okay.
We adjusted. Again, the police department took a big hit. They took $195,000, reeled it back. I looked at the way they did it. And it's 2 years in a row they were able to tap restricted fund money, use it within the state statute requirements and the federal statute requirements, but they dug deep. Fire department dug deep as well. Rocco and myself sat down and worked those numbers. And what we're hoping is fiscal year 21-22, we see a resurrection of not only local, but the state economy, which will end up bringing us in more money. The one thing we are seeing, and we'll firm up the numbers here in the next week or so, or a couple of weeks, is our sales tax number. Because the one thing I think, and I got this on the Lake County Managers Conference call yesterday. We have a conference call once a month and discuss issues in the various municipalities where the online sales tax that we are now collecting that we hadn't been collecting in years past. And as people shopped on various online outlets, it certainly made itself available to the receipts. We ended up getting some receipts on that, which offset some of our revenue loss from last year. So that was a positive. But coming out of a pandemic, credit to the senior staff, credit to the village board, but coming out of a pandemic, as I said before, civil unrest, a recession, and to turn around and be able to walk into the next fiscal year, offer a balanced budget with a projected surplus at the end of the year. And it may be beyond that $6,000 that I spoke of, depending what we get from the American Rescue Plan. And then I would highly recommend with the next presentation to the board about budgets, which I would like to do 6 months so we could kind of get a feel for where we're at. I think there's a great opportunity for us to strengthen our reserve.
I agree. Absolutely agree. Depending on how much we get from them.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Any comments for Greg? You're going to say something about a contract as well?
The contract?
Police contract?
No, we've got the CBA coming up. So
Right.
I mean, that September, we'll be back at the negotiating table for that as well.
Okay.
You know, I've just been following the budget process, Greg, and with your leadership and the department heads and staff, you did a commendable job. Especially forecasting before the pandemic came and started already seeing what was going on. I think we're one of the few communities in the state of Illinois that was ahead of the curve to get this done. And the way the trustees and everybody pulled together in this community, I think it's kudos to everybody.
Yeah, and I'd be remiss if I didn't. Well, first of all, again, thank you, Trustee Weiss. The department head, we have an exceptionally strong team with the department heads. There's no doubt about it. We may have different ideas and different approaches, but together, I mean, we're a cohesive unit. There's no doubt about it. Pat DePercio and Julie, phenomenal. Absolutely. We'd be lost without what they do for us every day. So they're phenomenal. And again, it's a cohesive team, and we work well together. And when you do that and you put those players together, it's like the 2016 Cubs, which we probably will never see again based on what's happening. But it's putting that team together and having the support of the village board that allows us to be capable of some of these accomplishments. If the mayor and the board, if the mayor and the village board are all right with that, then I'd like to move forward with preparing the final draft of the budget for review and any adjustments that may come off of that. The wage policy ordinance, which is pretty extensive, it's 20, 30 pages, is done. It'll be ready to be presented to the board with the draft, as well as moving forward with the appropriation ordinance.
I'm good with it.
Very good.
Okay.
Anything else? Anything else, Craig?
No, sir.
Okay. Any other comments on the budget from anyone? Wow, a lot faster than I thought. All right.
I'll take that direction. I'll move forward then.
Thank you, Greg,
Yes, sir.
as always. All right.
Thanks.
Oh, I don't have anything else to discuss, so I guess that was a fast meeting, faster than I thought it would be. Budgets
Oh,
always
I'm sorry,
take too long.
Mr. Mayor, I forgot one thing.
Okay,
17, Department 17 in the budget, the marina contract.
that's what I thought. I was gonna, that's why I asked about it.
I thought you were talking about the collective bargaining. I was going to bring that up because everything happened today. That'll continue through June 18th, and June 18th will be our last day doing the security at the marina. So that those budgeted dollars will come down because we won't have the revenue and we won't have the expenditure.
Well, isn't that contract basically a wash? I thought you had said what it costs us is what we're making.
Yeah, it varies. There are some years that we have taken, from what I go back and look at history, we've taken a little bit of a loss on it. And that's simply because of the calculation of the total cost of operation for it. I've been working with staff now to get a better idea that you have to include things like workers' compensation and liability and healthcare insurance into hourly billing rates so that you have an accurate billing rate. And then if it's something to do with the facility, to make sure that utilities and things like that are focused. And we should never be making a profit, but we should always be turning around and breaking even, because whatever we do that's outside the normal delivery of service shouldn't fall back on the taxpayers of Winthrop Harbor. So
I agree.
With that, it still is our jurisdiction, so there's still police response. We're just not providing security.
that's correct.
That's correct, yeah.
Yep.
All right,
Thank you, sir.
you're welcome. In that case, I'll just entertain them. I need a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Okay.
Second by trustee Whitmore. Very good. Roll call?
Trustee Hargit,
Aye.
trustee Levin,
Aye.
trustee Marabella,
Aye.
trustee McCarthy,
Aye.
trustee Weiss,
Aye.
trustee Whitmore.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
Good night.
Everybody have a great night.
Good night.